Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining me. My name is Dr. Brian. Apologize for being a minute or two late, but welcome to the Leadership Continuum. I am Dr. Brian and am thrilled to be here with you this morning. And what I'd love to do is share some concepts about leadership and team leadership, whether you're a seasoned supervisor or you are brand new to leadership. What spurred me to do this morning is this past week, Gallup released its year long findings about leadership. And just a little bit about myself. So, PhD in psychology. I've been teaching, training, and coaching in leadership for the last 20, 23 years or so. I started in 1998 doing leadership, conflict resolution, and communication seminars for SkillPath National Seminars and Fred Pryor. I've been doing my own consulting for a while, and I am certified in what's called positive intelligence, how to eliminate saboteurs and emotional uh, saboteurs that block you from being your best. So, for instance, just a couple of examples of those saboteurs are we all have the judge. The judge is that critic that sits on your shoulder and criticizes everything. First, it starts with you. You're not up to it. You're not going to be good at it. You can't do this. Your judge right now might be saying, why am I listening to this? Why am I going through this process on a Saturday morning? When the judge is done criticizing you and you've had enough, sometimes we lash out at others, and our coping strategy is to focus on criticizing others, of course. So there's also the avoider, the pleaser, the hypervigilant, and we'll talk about those briefly a little later. What I really want to focus on are some concepts in leadership to help you be your best. And what spurred this webinar at the last minute for me to share with all of you is a simple concept. One statistic that came out of the Gallup survey: 70% of leaders surveyed, and of course, because it was done by Gallup, you can be assured thousands of leaders and a big cross section. So, seasoned, new, multiple generations of leaders. 70% are struggling or have tension and anxiety leading remote teams. Paired together with that, they're struggling with leading in person teams, and they're struggling with combo packs. So, the hybrid workforce. How do I lead a team in person and also lead and coach and make sure we're all on the same page with a remote team? And how do I get them to work together? So let's talk about the first concept that will help you as a supervisor, leader, or even CEO. And if you're a CEO, this might seem a little silly at first, but I challenge everybody watching this. Let's focus on one key concept for a moment. And that concept is, what is your role? What are your job responsibilities? So, as CEO, are those clear for you? If you had a board of directors, are you and the board aligned in mission, vision, goals? How often are those adjusted? How often are you communicating with key people? Remember, in leadership, you do not have to do this alone. You do not have to be isolated. There are lots of different teams, people, coaches, trainers, mentors that you can reach out to. And even though as a CEO, you might feel the pressure of you have to be right every time, the best thing you can do are the big two. What are the big two? Clarity on your goals, clarity on your vision, and clarity on your role. What is your role? So check in with who you need to. Now, if you are a manager, supervisor, first time manager or supervisor, or a seasoned leader, I will challenge you to do this week. I want you to go to your boss. First, outline what you believe your job responsibilities are and your role and where do you fit in. And second, then ask your upline, what are your roles? What is your role? What are your job responsibilities? What is their vision for you? And I have found in my career that those are often off target. Your goals, your vision, your role is often not aligned with your upline, not because you don't want it to be, but because we don't talk about that. You may have gotten promoted last year. You may have gotten promoted 5 or 6 years ago, and you were told this is your role. Well, as we all know, businesses need to evolve and shift and adapt and continue to align. And so, to get in that alignment, clarity of your role as a leader, as a supervisor, as a manager is absolutely critical. When you know what you're supposed to be doing, you can reduce conflict. You can communicate to your team clearly, and you have that confidence that you and your boss are on the same page. And just that clarity reduces conflict, reduces anxiety and tension. When you know where you're going and how you're going to get there, then it's absolutely easier to lead other people. So simply, please take this challenge. You can email me, brian@drbrianspeaks.com, or drop me a text message at the cell phone number you see, 818-939-9426. Send me the results. Check in with your boss and just let me know, were you and your boss on the same page in terms of role, vision, mission, and goals? The next crucial part of leadership is if you have a team under you. If you have a team of people under you, could be one person, could be 3 people, maybe it's 10 people, maybe you're struggling with leading 4 or 5 different teams and getting them aligned. So the next request or challenge I have of you is get your team together, do it in person, and if you're leading a hybrid team, jump on a Zoom and ask them to write out, what do they believe their job responsibilities are? What vision do they have for themselves? And what do they want to grow into as a team member? Then meet with them and go over what you want of them and what their responsibilities need to be. The more you get everybody on the same page, the better your team will grow. The more alignment you'll have, the clarity of communication you'll experience. So one more tip that I encourage you to focus on. Do you know the mission of your company? Now, chances are very high if you're a CEO, you do. Chances are really high if you're vice president, you do. But has the mission of your company changed or evolved? If it hasn't, that's fine. What's the vision you have for yourself and the company? And is everybody on the same page with you at your level and below? If you're a supervisor or a manager, I encourage you to have each team that you lead create their own team mission and vision. Why does the team exist? What is its purpose? And how does it align with the overall goal of the company? What is each person's role on the team? Now, you might be saying, this is going to take a lot of time. It only needs to take a few minutes per team and a few minutes per person. But let me ask you this. How much time are you taking putting out fires, resolving conflicts, repeating the same conversation about multiple conflicts that keep reoccurring? Because in conflict resolution, we need to get to resolution, not putting out the fires and hoping the problem goes away. We'll talk about that in just a moment. So I encourage you to put in your comments in the comment box because I can see all of those. And just ask questions about what you are having difficulty with as a supervisor, leader, CEO. So is everybody aligned? When you, and what I'm calling building your presentation, how do you relate? How do you communicate with your team? Just by clarifying roles, you're doing several things at the same time. When we get clarity of role, vision, mission, job responsibilities, how I want to grow as a team member, you connect. Building rapport earns trust. Building rapport earns trust. So the more trust and rapport you have, the easier it is to work, the easier it is to fulfill job responsibilities. What is your goal as a leader? What is your goal as a leader? Absolutely critically important. Your goal as a leader is ... Can you fill that in? What is your goal as a CEO? Definitely focus on this. The overall goal of the leader is to get the people around you or on your team to be better. It's probably the closest similarity to sports that we have. I love sports analogies. Often I find that we try to take sports analogies, how we're running an NFL team, to how we should run a business team. And while some things in sports correlate to business, many of them don't, because sports doesn't last for a year over year over year. The team changes, parts change, owners change, coaches change. Of course, the overall goal, long-term winning, we want to do that in business too, don't we? Long-term winning. So the goal of leadership, get the people around you to be better, optimize their skill sets, help them get promoted. And so the more you do that, the more people will be motivated to absolutely positively want to give you their best effort. Next, your next goal in connecting with a team, especially hybrid remote teams, understand how you can help them. Explain how to position themselves and yourself effectively. Tell your team members what your role is. Tell your team members how you want them to function, focus, get in tune with mission, vision, daily responsibilities. When you position your effectiveness as a helper, as the go-to person when they're in trouble, then leadership becomes easier. You don't want your team to be tepid, worried, or concerned about approaching you. And so then we will move to the next step. So let me shift gears for a moment. What I'd like to do is discuss leading a hybrid team. So let's go over some tips on leading a hybrid team, in person and remote. Let's focus on remote. Absolutely, positively, 100%, whether you're leading a remote team or in-person team, micromanagement style of leadership is out the door. If you feel the need to micromanage, to oversee, to constantly check in, then you're going to lose people. Workforce retention goes down, especially Gen Z and millennials do not appreciate micromanagement. I will go so far as to say almost every generation does not appreciate micromanagement. Now, micromanagement in crisis, maybe, but not even then. The more clear people are in their role, the better. So let's talk about remote teams and in-person teams. If possible, I would have a weekly check-in with everybody who's on your remote team. Weekly check-in. What are you checking in? Did they accomplish preset goals? Did they have any difficulties that went unaddressed? Simple. Set out the goals, set out the responsibilities, weekly check-ins with people who are working remotely. If possible, a minimum of one time a month, can you bring everybody in person together? If that is not possible, a minimum of monthly, have a Zoom session with the people working remotely with the people you're working with in person. Let me say that again. If possible, at least monthly, have a meeting with everyone working remotely with the people working with you day to day in person. That's going to bring a collective together. That's going to make sure we're all feeling part of the team, part of the company, part of where we're going and where we're headed. And it's important. What that does is build rapport among the people who aren't seen every day. Where teams cross connect are the in-person teams connecting with the people working remotely. That should happen at set times throughout the week or throughout the month, or if necessary with key people, maybe even daily. Again, that brings everybody together and everybody focused on the same goal, problem solving, and focus. So when we bring in alignment, when we have clarity of purpose, when we have all met together, we all bring alignment. Your goal as leadership becomes easier in helping people perform better, and helping people communicate better, and helping you being able to not having to handle all the day-to-day responsibilities of all the teams. You become what you're made for in leadership, helping people get better by just stepping in where you need while fulfilling your own day-to-day responsibilities. So please go ahead and share comments. Does that align? Are you able to do that? Are you having difficulty with that? So absolutely, one huge step with remote teams is to meet weekly with them as their leader. Focus in on a key facet. Are they following through with the responsibilities? Where do they need help? Where are they feeling challenged? And so with that, it's going to focus on where you need to step in and help the most. Great question. Thank you for asking. So how do you monitor the hybrid team's activity scale if too much freedom is given and they become addicted to being unmonitored? Well, absolutely, I recommend this. When you have preset weekly check-ins, that helps. But the other thing, what happens with remote teams is they feel disconnected. And so with that disconnect, they're not feeling part of. So this is where you need to learn strengths and weaknesses of the people working remotely. Do they need daily goals, weekly goals, monthly goals, quarterly goals? So if you see that they're not accomplishing their responsibilities, then I might step in and do daily check-ins if necessary. Find out where they're having difficulty, where do they need help getting to alignment and working remotely. And just asking those questions brings clarity. The more clarity you have, the more productive the team can be. And while I don't like micromanagement, if you're finding remote people, specifically individuals, aren't following through with job responsibilities, then it's time to have daily check-ins until they get into alignment and find out what difficulties are they having. Now, I can't speak for all of you online. Good news is, there's a lot of rumor, there's a lot of innuendo, there's a lot of conversations going on LinkedIn about, working remotely, people aren't as productive. Yet Gallup found that's not true. Productivity of many remote teams has increased. Productivity has gone up. So what was missing, but really gained steam towards the latter part of 2023, was what you're all used to, the coffee table or water cooler chat. So while we want to reduce gossip and rumor, you can still have water cooler chats. Remote teams should be able to check in with the team members that they're working with that are in person at your office. Those can happen daily, but they don't have to be micromanaged. So absolutely, someone commented written regulations. So I would encourage you for this concept. Absolutely important in leadership. Not only help people grow is your job, but also follow through and follow up. Follow through and follow up. So 3 most important rules that we know in real estate are 3 most important rules in real estate. Location, location, location. 3 most important rules in leadership. Document, document, document. So even people working remotely, you're still part of the team, still part of the company, still have job responsibilities. You need to be doing your role. You need to be working and showing what you do. So I have found in my time, even with large companies and even small companies. So the fear is people don't follow through. So do check-ins. The more you check in, you will find the less responsibilities or the less micromanagement you'll have to be doing day to day. And what I mean by that is this. Once you set up a protocol of checking in daily and monitoring progress and have preset goals, all of a sudden, over a week or two's time, you're going to find productivity goes up. So then I'm going to lessen those check-ins. And again, when you're aligned, you're going to help. And you as a leader are clear, and team members are clear on what their role is. Communication, responsibility, productivity should go up. If it's not, then it's time to have a one-on-one meeting, either over Zoom or in person. What's going on? How do we resolve this? Why aren't goals being met? And so again, you might have to take more time away from your responsibilities, much of an overseer with the people not following up, following through, the more you check in initially, they're going to get it. Now, we've talked about our concern as leaders are people following through and following up. And I didn't finish my thought. So, I've worked with large teams, large companies. I work a lot, PhD in psychology, so I've helped a lot of psychology practices, substance abuse clinics. How do you get everybody on board? And certainly during the pandemic, people running a small clinic were afraid that their therapists and counselors and behavior techs weren't going to be able to follow through working remotely. Well, even during the pandemic, there are certain roles people had to be at work. And in healthcare, you need to be in the office. So there's no way to do a blood test remotely, right? There's no way to do a drug analysis, drug test remotely. However, for the other people who could work off-site, I worked with a lot of teams on building the rapport that, let people send in reports daily on what they accomplished. And that will build trust. It's hard to have that trust as leader. How much time are they, quote, wasting? Well, probably not much. They're probably working hard at home just as they were working in person. So we're going to jump into conflict management in a moment. And so in leadership, our greatest fear might be we're not capable, or we can't lead, or I have trouble with this generation or personality style, right? But I believe we're in alignment as a CEO, as a leader, as a manager, and a team member. What's the hardest thing to admit? Please share that in the comments. What's the hardest thing to admit? I believe the hardest thing to admit is I don't know how to do this. And team members are always afraid to tell their bosses or managers or supervisors, I don't know how to do this. And even as a CEO, no matter how many years you've been in leadership, there's going to be challenges you may not know. That's why you have to have trusted sources to go to, a mentor, a coach, a board member. How do I do this? It's not possible to know everything. And businesses are growing at lightning speed. And so absolutely, someone commented, you need at first with hybrid teams, or sorry, the teams working remotely, you need to be very proactive. I will encourage you to be just as proactive with the in-person teams as you are with the remote teams. So try to equalize that. So at first you may be feeling like you're not quite micromanaging, but you want to be over involved at first till both of you become in alignment and you build trust, and then you see productivity happening. So that's a way that you can really grow, by building that trust. And so let's focus on one issue of leadership that's next in my mind, which is there are conflicts. So how does conflict happen? There's misalignment of roles. There's lack of communication or miscommunication. So can anybody, what's the definition of conflict? What is the definition of conflict? So the definition of conflict is disagreement over an issue. It's two people having a disagreement. That's all conflict is. It doesn't mean that there's, super high conflict. It doesn't mean that there is super low conflict. It just means there's disagreement. And so where it's critical in leadership to get to conflict resolution. What is conflict resolution? Conflict resolution is simply the same issue once you've met with somebody and got an agreement on how we're going to resolve it. It doesn't keep happening over and over and over. So it can be as simple as this. Someone clicking their pen can be quite annoying. Well, if you take the pen away, you haven't really resolved the conflict. You didn't get to the root cause of what's causing the issue. Is how do we get to resolution? So couldn't fit this on the PowerPoint slide. So there's 5 core ways that we resolve conflict. The 5 core ways you see on the screen, there's dominate, placate, compromise, collaborate. So the 5th one, withdraw. So we use these conflict resolution techniques all the time. It's not that we don't use them. It's that one of them is best at getting to resolution so the conflict does not happen over and over and over and over. Okay. And so here's the ways that we resolve conflict. So you see dominate, plus minus. You see minus plus plus minus. So dominate, I win, you lose. Dominate, I win, you lose. I'm taking over. This is how we're going to resolve the conflict. So in the 50s and early 60s, this was the day-to-day style of leadership. It stopped going well in the 70s. Baby boomers, and certainly in the 80s, day-to-day domination style of resolving conflict and communication, out the door. Gen X left companies in droves with micromanagement and dominating style of leadership. However, can you guess, when is dominate a great way to resolve conflict? When is dominate a great way to resolve conflict? Crisis or emergency. In crisis or emergency, I'm not getting your input. We are moving. I'm picking the solution and we're doing it. Right now, take over, dominate. Crisis or emergency is the right style to resolve conflict. Now, hopefully you have preset procedures for different crises happen, such as earthquake, power failure, communication issues, get out of control, people yelling and screaming inappropriately. You want to tone that down. So you might have to jump in and dominate. Placate. Placate is I give in to let you win. When is placating a good style of resolution? Why would I give in to let you win? Well, if I'm new to the leadership role and I know what the outcome is going to be because of my knowledge, history, background, then placate. If it's not crisis or emergency, if it's not going to cost a ton of money, if it's going to go wrong and you have time to redo it, let the team member, let the team do it their way, and you predict what's going to happen. Then they see, 1, you know what you're doing. 2, you were right, and I don't mean that in a mean way. And 3, they learn. So then you can redo the project and make it happen. Now, this is really great with remote teams. So you can predict what's going to happen with a remote team. Let each person know what you see. Let them try it their way. You're building trust and rapport. And then when it doesn't turn out well, teach them the way you would like it done. Help them learn that technique and practice that over and over. And again, you get into alignment. So you're going to hear me repeat alignment, goals, roles is we're clear on where everybody fits in. And so think about in the back of your mind, and we're going to cover this next Saturday. How do I figure out strengths and weaknesses of everybody easily and quickly? So I will show you a system of how to do that. And so it's a behavioral style assessment that's pretty quick. So when you know people's strengths and weaknesses, it becomes easier to lead them, to teach them, and reduce the conflict. So it's okay to placate. Now, if you want, if you email me or text me, I can send you a conflict resolution style quick assessment. What's your style? If placate is your number one style of resolving a conflict, you're probably having a tough time because you feel like people are stepping over you. So we're going to shift that, and it's easier to do than you think. Remember, the number one fear, I don't know what I'm doing. I want people to tell me they don't know what they're doing. I want people to know, it's okay to come and tell me I'm not sure how to do this. And so we'll show you. Now, document, right? If it's the 20th time, then we know we have an issue, right? And so it's really important to know strengths and weaknesses of people on your team so that people can go, so that you don't have to be the go-to person all the time, right? I can say, why don't we go to Angela? Why don't we go to Aaron? Why don't we go to Joe? Ask them, they're good. You want to have other experts on the team, right? All right, so we covered dominate, placate, compromise. Oh my goodness, compromise. Absolutely brutal. I'm going to give you my favorite example. I couldn't believe this happened. I was working at a substance abuse clinic. So you hear the pen clicking. I hope you can hear that. I had a pen clicker next to me. And so I went along and bought them to the whole team. This team member who was quite immature came in back in the 80s. So brought in Mr. Microphone and started making other noises. I didn't resolve the conflict. So let's go to compromise. Compromise is we both don't get what we want. Compromise is we both don't get what we want. Now, compromise, please write this down, is the single best short-term solution to a conflict, but it does not resolve it. It does not resolve it. Compromise is a short-term solution to a conflict. And so where do you want to be aligned? So let's talk about personal relationships for a moment, right? If you're in a significant relationship with somebody, what are the big 3 or 4, right? We usually don't compromise on money, religious values. What are the deal breakers? Having an affair, not having an affair. So really important to focus on that. And pardon me one moment. All right, we're back online. Sorry, my battery was running low and I didn't realize I wasn't plugged in all the way. So some things to check before you go online, make sure your is plugged in securely. So my apologies. So compromise, short-term solution to a conflict. So easy loves Thai food, meat, steak. I like fish and sushi. She does not. When we go visit our cousins a few hours away, we end up stopping at the same Thai restaurant. I compromise and let that go. I get more and more frustrated because I'm not getting what I want. And so we want to focus on how do we get to a place that has both sushi and steak or meat. Some Thai restaurants, yes, some Japanese restaurants, but we ended up finding a place that we both like. And now we stopped there on the way back from our cousins on that long car ride. At work, absolutely come to agreement on what are the day-to-day things that we can, quote, settle for that are not big deals. You can't get a win out of everything. A team conflict, how we're going to resolve how we're going to approach completing a project sometimes, but I didn't get what I wanted, right? And so what we want to focus on is the best way to resolve a conflict. Collab is we both get what we want. We both get what we want. So when we collaborate, we get to agreement and it becomes a long-term solution. So you want to get to collaborate as often as possible. What does collaborate require? Collaborate requires patience and time. Collaboration requires patience and time. And so often in leadership, we get to the point where we feel like we're not able to get to collaboration. So then it becomes okay to compromise. It becomes okay to compromise. If it's a big issue, go back to collaborate. The time to collaborate as often as possible. And so when you collaborate, you get to win. Now, what happens with withdrawal? Withdraw is a powerful way to send a message. And so my internet is going in and out at the moment. We've had some difficulties due to a couple of storms and earthquakes in the area. So I could have not done this webinar, but we're doing our best. So sorry about that. Withdraw. Withdraw is when you walk out. So if you've been going over the same issues with a team remotely or in person, I suggest saying, I'm putting you on the hot burner with me. I want you as a team to get together and figure out how we're going to solve this. And we're going to meet again in person tomorrow. And walk out. Withdraw once in a while. Once in a while, maybe once a year. You never want to send the message that when you get personally fed up, are going to focus on how to get you to walk out. So you don't want that. So as often as possible, we want to get to collaborate, win-win. All right. So we've been talking for a while. I appreciate everybody's time. I know it's a Saturday morning. I thank you all for joining me. How I can come, please email me at brian@drbrianspeaks.com or send me a text message 818-939-9426. I'm also on WhatsApp, LinkedIn, Facebook. I'd love to have a conversation in your leadership journey and your goals. And I would love to help you as a team member. Stay tuned. In the next few weeks, you're going to see the Leadership Continuum, a Roku TV show that I will be hosting, where we'll be able to delve into these issues with more precision and more time. So thank you for your time and attention. Really appreciate you attending or watching this recording, and have an excellent and exceptional Saturday. Thank you so much.